Hey everyone, this is Blanton with Once Upon a Homestead, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about seed starting. So here we have a nice empty tray that we're going to start filling up and talking about how much to put in it. But first of all, we need to get something in here. So let's go ahead and get us some dirt. And there we go. There's some dirt. And so what you want to figure out is what kind of plants you're going to be able to plant in these actual chambers. Each one of them can hold several kinds of seeds or a bunch of different seeds of different types, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. One of the things you want to think about first of all is how many plants you can actually plant in your garden. So we're going to go ahead and start plotting out our garden here in just a sec. And sometimes your first draft is a little bit junky, so let's go ahead and there we go. Second draft 2.0, yeah. All right, so what you're doing with this is figuring out how much room you have in your garden and what plants you're going to put where. So once you kind of have a general idea of what you want to put in and how big your garden is, it's kind of look like this. Boom. So once you have it figured out, what plants you're going to actually plant in it, this helps you map out how many of each you're going to put in. There's a bunch of things you want to be aware of when you're doing this, as you're doing it. And one of them is how many of each plants and how much room you can give each plant. The biggest problem is going to be what you're going to do with it. I hope you like the can because that's a ton of tomatoes. So once you figure that out, you're going to go through and you're going to count how many rows you have and then how many plants will fit in each row. Once you have that part figured out, that gives you kind of a real general idea of your seed count. Now your seed count is really important because obviously you have to get seeds. So once you figure out how many you need of each, then you can kind of give yourself a general idea of what you have to go out and buy. Obviously, get a few more than you need, just in case, but that'll give you your starter for what you're going to go through for your entire garden. That gives you, your distance from each individual plot. And when you're kind of developing this, you're going to figure out how many of each and how much room you can give each. And then what types of plants your family is going to want to grow and what types of plants you're actually going to be able to eat, and which ones you're going to have to freeze, can, or preserve in some other way. So once you have all that figured out, then you can go back and start working on your actual seeds. And by that I mean you have your counts, you know how many you're going to be growing, and what you're going to do with them when you're actually done growing them. So at that point, you're just going to go ahead and you're just going to pop right back into your original kind of group. There we go. Now that you have all that extra information figured out, then you can kind of move on to working with your dirt and working with your actual hands and getting in there and actually putting some things into the ground. So you got to figure out, first of all, what you're going to plant in the trays and what you're going to plant outside. So we're going to start out with the whole idea of 1/4 inch deep planting, which is just putting little tiny divots in the ground like this. And what that's going to be used for is mainly your lettuces, your mustards, your greens in general, things that would seed themselves on the surface anyway. But hey, we're missing a few things here, so we just got to go ahead and get the seeds, and there they are. So with the seeds, you want to pick out which one you're going to plant. And I guess we're going to go with the Celtis here, which is a type of stalk lettuce. This does pretty neat. So let's go ahead and grab our actual seeds out of the packet, and boom, there they are, little tiny seeds. So you can see how small these are. And we're going to put them a couple seeds at a time inside of our little divots that we made that are 1/4 inch down. You don't have to be accurate with your counts, just gently sprinkle them in. You can see how small these things are. There's quite a few of them in my hand there. So, like I said, a couple of them at a time. You don't have to be super accurate. These can be cluster seeded. You don't have to do individual seeds for these at all. And you can actually kind of pull individuals then and cull them out, the weaker ones, or push them down in later. You're going to want to also gently kind of put the soil over top like that. With these, it's never a good idea to go like, cram it down in there, because that's just going to crush your seeds down, and you want to be nice and gentle. You don't want to pack the soil down too tight. The other thing you can do is just sprinkle the seeds over top of the soil. That's how these would be planted naturally if they just fell out of the plant. And again, you don't have to be accurate, just gently put them in the soil like that, right over top of it. and just kind of go from there. Pat them down lightly, and you're done. Nice thing about these trays is that these are a water from beneath. So what that means is you don't have to spray the tops of your plants and worry about flooding seeds out, especially if you sprinkle them across the top like this. It's going to be underneath of these trays. If I can get that corner off anyway. It's a little mess, that's okay. So the water is going to be underneath of here, and it's going to soak up, through the soil and water your seeds that way. That way you don't have to worry about anything being overwatered, really. Next, we're going to talk about deeper, about an inch deep seeds. And that's going to be your squash, your pumpkins, and kind of some of your gourd plants and stuff like that. So you're looking about an inch down. You just want to plunk your finger down in there and bore these little holes out, one at a time. And that's how deep your seeds are going to be planted. Now, as you're doing this, you can prep a bunch of them if you want to, but you don't really have to. It's up to you. Next, we're going to need to go ahead and grab ourselves some of the seeds for this. So there we go. We got some watermelon seeds, and these are kind of a neat one, aren't they? So with watermelon seeds, you're going to want to, again, plant them 1 inch down, and you're going to kind of go 1 or 2 at a time. 1 is usually the best, though. So let's go ahead and get our actual seeds out of here, and there they are. So as you put your seeds in, like I said, you can do 1 at a time, and you literally just put it down in, and then gently, kind of cover it with dirt, like that. And each one of these seeds, like I said, 1 at a time. You can do 2 at a time, but what you're going to do is you're going to wait for them to come up, and then you're going to cull the weaker one, which means you're going to pull it out, or you're going to push it down into the ground to fertilize the next plant, that kind of thing. But as you're doing this, gently cover each seed up with the soil. And these are good ones to plant indoors. They really do like the higher temperatures and the moisture and that kind of stuff. And they don't do well just plunking the seeds in the ground necessarily. But, look them up and you can kind of go from there. So once you have that figured out, you're going to try to think about plants that you might be not planting actually in the trays, and things you might plant directly in the ground. Things that you might use are something like, maybe a potato or something like that, something you dice and you put into your trays. So we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a nice little potato here. There we go. And you want to make sure that you have it cut with an eye on it. So when you cut it, make sure you have the nice eye in there, because that's actually what's going to be planted in the ground. You don't use these trays at all. So you want to put plants like this directly into the ground, and you want to make sure that eye is facing up in the ground, and that is where your new plant is going to come from. Potatoes are an interesting one because with these eyes right here, a new plant just grows right out of it. And, you kind of got a couple eyes on each plant. Here's another one. And you can cut the potatoes into pieces, and each eye is going to grow you a new one. Not that you have to do that. You can cut one potato in half, and you have your 2 eyes, and you put it in the ground and stuff like that. But with potatoes, you want to put them directly into the field. You don't want to put them into anything else. So a couple other things you can do that grow directly into the field is going to be corn. There's a couple other plants you'd be able to put into the soil, and that would be like your peas and stuff like that. But we're going to talk about corn real quick here. So let's grab some corn seeds. Boom. There we go. This is a blue corn here, and it's something you make cornmeal out of. Again, you're going to want to put 1 or maybe 2 in each. You're not going to put it in this. You're going to put it, definitely out in your field. You don't want to grow these into into a seed tray like this. They're not going to grow well. They're going to get really weak. They're not going to weather harden or light harden or anything like that. You want to plant these out in the actual field itself. So when you do that, you're going to, put 1 seed at a time, sometimes 2, into each row, but you're going to put them about a foot apart. So with dry corn like this, it'll preserve for a number of years. You don't have to do a whole lot to it other than dry it out, which is kind of nice, because then you have a nice storehouse of seeds you can keep using in your gardens. And you can always grow another couple, ears out as you go. But anyway, with the corn, you're just going to be growing it outside, not into here. You want to always make sure that you're growing appropriate plants for these. So each one of these cells, you're going to be, once the plants actually, start growing in them and everything like that and coming up, you're going to want to pull the cells out individually, and you're going to break out the root bundles in the bottom, and that's going to help pack it down into the ground, and the roots really going to be able to grow into the soil a lot better. If you pack it too tight, the roots aren't going to be able to grow anywhere. So you want to make sure that they're not crammed down real hard, and you also want to make sure that the roots are going to be slightly taken apart a little bit as you put them into the soil and pack them down in, or else the roots aren't going to really be able to grow anywhere. They're going to train themselves to grow into a circular pattern, sort of, and they're just not going to grow down and reach, moisture and stuff like that. It's just going to create a weaker plant. So this is just kind of the basics for everything that you'll need to know about starting your seeds. Now, if you have any questions, definitely let us know. And, anything that you might want to know about planting like that, just give us a shout. Otherwise, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. All right, remember, we're all in this together, guys. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you later.